Bills Mafia on tonight's Air Raid Hour special Thursday pregame show. We're talking everything you need to know for Bills Dolphins, key matchups, superlatives, and of course, game predictions. But first,
welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
good evening, everyone, and welcome into the special Thursday edition of the Air Raid Hour pregame show. I will be your host tonight, Tilt Money. This show is brought to you by the Cover One Sports Network and Picasso's Pizza. No Judge tonight, as he is in Disneyland with his family, and as he said to me behind the scenes a couple days ago, he is probably going to be in the doghouse tonight because he's going to be on his phone watching the game while he should be spending time with his family. So I don't know if that's his fault or what, but seems like poor planning to me, although it is a Thursday night game early in the season against the Dolphins. So hopefully it will be relatively stress-free. Obviously, the short week means things are a little bit different for the Bills this week. They only had one real official practice where they had walkthroughs on Monday and yesterday. And we're going to get to the injury report here in a second. But as you can see here, just quickly going through what things look like in the AFC East going into tonight's game. Bills are obviously on top with that 2-0 record. The Patriots beat the Dolphins a week ago, bringing their record to 1-1 after they had lost to the Las Vegas Raiders in week 1. Obviously, the Bills beat the Jets last week after the Jets had lost to the Steelers in week 1, and the Dolphins lost to the Patriots after getting absolutely housed by the Colts in week 1. So that's where things stand in the AFC East heading into tonight's game. An interesting sort of dynamic maybe for tonight's game. It has felt like, and I didn't look this up, and I was just kind of thinking about it. Early season games have tended to be in Miami. The later season games have tended to be in Buffalo. This year we get a little bit of a switch where the Bills play at home early and will play Miami later on the road. Now, I know a couple years ago when the Bills did win in that last week of the season, they were on the road against Miami, but typically these games have been in Miami early in the season. So let's get right into tonight's injury report and weather. We'll briefly talk about weather. There really is not much to talk about from a weather perspective. Things look good in Orchard Park tonight. Light winds up to 10 miles an hour. Should be no rain in the forecast. Seems like a perfect night for football. The fans will be out tailgating and already are out tailgating, I know. And we're just about a little over 2 hours away from game time. Possibly towards the end of this show, we're going to get the announcement of the inactives list. It may come a little early. The Bills did come a little early with their announcement last weekend. And so we'll see if that holds true again this week. So on that topic, on the injury front, obviously the big news of the week was that Matt Milano suffered that injury, pec injury, during the game against the Jets and is out for tonight's game. We still are not sure, per Sean McDermott, exactly how long-term of an injury it will be. He did make some comments about, we have to see how things kind of settle out over the next couple days and see where the injury settles to really understand how long Matt Milano may be out for. But he's at least out for this game and potentially longer. We know Ed Oliver is out for this game as well. So two key defenders for the Bills are out. And as we bring up the injury report right here, I'll put it on the screen for you all to see. We go through and we see that Taron Johnson and Cam Lewis both listed as questionable for tonight. It seems, based on the way Taron Johnson was speaking to reporters in practice, that he is going to be a go for tonight and should be active for tonight's game. We will see about Cam Lewis if he's going to be active for tonight's game. We do see now Jordan Hancock getting those full practices in, and he will be a good to go for tonight. Obviously, we talked about Matt Milano and Ed Oliver being out. Shaq Thompson, after practicing in a limited fashion all week, is questionable for tonight. And if I would imagine if he's good to go, he would be active tonight, given that Milano is out, and the Bills would probably like to have him slot in behind Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams, who will be filling in that starter's role behind Matt Milano for that role. So that's the injury report for the Bills. For the Dolphins, a number of injuries, highlighted by probably their most notable being Jalen Waddle, who has been limited in practice. Cameron Wolfe is reporting that Jalen Waddle should be playing tonight. So that would be obviously a big boost for the Dolphins if Jalen Waddle is able to go tonight. In the past, the Bills have kind of had mixed success against Jalen Waddle. As far as other injuries for the Dolphins, you've got Darren Waller, who's still not back from his injury. Jalen Wright is out as well. It looks like Storm Duck will be out for this game, and Ife Melifonwu, who is a favorite of ours in the draft process a few years back, is also looking like he is going to be out for this game as well, according to the Miami Dolphins official injury report. So Storm Duck, Ife Melifonwu, and Darren Waller are the official outs for the Dolphins. Questionable are Jalen Waddle, who we mentioned, Chop Robinson, who was limited all week, and Benito Jones with an oblique injury. I would expect that both Chop Robinson and Benito Jones will play tonight. And I mistakenly said Jalen Wright is out for this game, and I apologize for that. He is actually in for this game, so I apologize for that. That was a misstatement on my part, so fact-checking myself here on the fly. But that is the injury report for the Dolphins. Generally, their main players are healthy here. Jalen Waddle is going to be the one to keep an eye on, but it sounds like, again, per Cameron Wolfe on X, that he is going to be good to go tonight. So that pretty much covers the injuries for this game. Remains to be seen sort of how the Bills will end up playing this one without Matt Milano. Of course, the expectation is that Dorian Williams is going to slide into that role. The Bills at times have struggled against some of these receiving backs in the past. Justice Hill, Devon Achane in the past has had some decent success against the Bills when the Miami Dolphins have stuck with him. But inexplicably in the past, they've kind of gone away from them when they've been having success. It seems like Matt Milano always misses these Dolphins games. Like the timing of when he is injured just always seems to align with him missing time. As you recall, last year it was Balon Spector on the field with Dorian Williams in this matchup. And obviously that, came with some mixed results. So we will see how things go tonight. Taron Johnson expecting to play, which is big because obviously the Bills expect that the Dolphins will move Tyreek and Jalen Waddle around the formation as they always do. Those two the Bills have had pretty decent success against Tyreek Hill in the past. Malik Washington is kind of an X factor for them out of the slot and someone to keep an eye on for tonight's game. So that covers the injuries. We'll get into the Bills' offense here in just a second, but first, a word from our sponsor.
Picasso's Pizza. Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza. Shipping both local and nationwide. Order online today at Picasso'sPizza.net.
That's Picasso'sPizza.net. Order anywhere in the country and have Picasso's Pizza delivered right to your door, fresh, never frozen, and it is delicious. That famous cup and char pepperoni. Picasso'sPizza.net, serving pizza, Buffalo-style pizza since 1980. Okay, as we get into more of the matchups tonight, as we talk about the Bills' offense, it is widely known the success Josh Allen and this Bills' offense have had in his tenure against the Miami Dolphins. A 12-2 record for Josh Allen in his career against the Miami Dolphins. 37 passing touchdowns to only 8 interceptions against the Miami Dolphins. He's also chipped in 89 rush attempts for 647 yards and another 5 rushing touchdowns against this team, a 108, almost 109 quarterback rating against the Miami Dolphins. The team and the Bills have had the most wins against in the Josh Allen era is the Miami Dolphins. So this offense tonight will, need to kind of show up again as they have the first 2 weeks. The defense for the Miami Dolphins obviously has not been a strength for them to start the season as we kind of look into the DVOA now that we've had 2 weeks. Again, still a small sample size, but we'll take a look at what it says. Miami's defense on a DVOA perspective is 28th overall through 2 weeks of the season, 31st against the pass, and 15th against the rush from a DVOA perspective. From a defense against specific wide receivers, they are 19th against wide receiver ones, 21st against wide receiver twos, 17th against the slot, 28th against tight ends. So keep that in mind. I'm going to come back to that. And 7th against running backs as receivers. So they really have struggled immensely to start the season. And the reality is that the Miami Dolphins have played 2 offenses. The Indianapolis Colts, who I'll give Judge some credit, they have surprised so far this season. That offense has looked pretty competent with Daniel Jones, and they do have weapons. But then allowing essentially they've allowed 33 points in both of their first 2 games, the Miami Dolphins have, and they're dead last in the NFL defense from a third down conversion rate perspective. They've allowed 52% conversion rate on third down, and they've allowed 4 for 4 conversions on fourth down so far. So that Bills offense who has had a lot of success against the Miami Dolphins in the past, out of all the matchups they've kind of had against this team, this certainly seems like it's lining up for it to be another profitable night for that Buffalo Bills offense, who's converting right now at 41% on third downs themselves, which is right in the middle of the pack so far in the NFL. So, Interestingness says, anyone know when the next list? It should come out around 6:30, 6:45. So I'm hoping we catch that sort of at the tail end of the show here, and we can kind of cover that. It's usually about 90 minutes before game time, so that would put it right around 6:45 if that holds true. So we will see if we can kind of catch that at the end of the show. Going solo tonight, so I'm not sure how long we'll go. I'm shooting for maybe 45 minutes, and as Spin says, it's 6:45, and that's what I expected as well. So we will see. I think we were talking about the injuries a bit earlier. I'm expecting Taron Johnson's going to be active for the Bills, and the big news on Miami side is I'm expecting Jalen Waddle to be active for the Dolphins based on the reports we've seen. Cameron Wolf was the one reporting on Jalen Waddle, and obviously Taron Johnson directly in his post-practice interview yesterday. So this Bills offense, as I said, has had a lot of success against the Miami Dolphins. I also mentioned that they, from a DVOA perspective, 28th against the tight end. You start to kind of go into some of the matchups. The Dolphins have not had a takeaway yet this year. They've allowed 418 and 333 yards respectively in each of the first 2 games. And they really don't have anyone that you would say really stands out on the defensive side of the ball. They've got Bradley Chubb, who has 2 sacks so far this season and is really trying to kind of come back from all of the injuries he's had. Chop Robinson has played well on the one end, but he's questionable tonight and won't be 100%. Jordan Brooks and our friend Tyrell Dodson are manning those linebacker spots for the Dolphins. And the back end is really where I think the Bills are going to be looking to exploit Jack Jones on one corner. We already mentioned Storm Duck's going to be out, so it's probably going to be fellow former Bill Rasul Douglas getting the start at the right corner, Jason Marshall in the slot. They do have Minkah Fitzpatrick at free safety, but it's probably going to be Ashton Davis starting for them at strong safety with Ife Melifonwu out. And this is a secondary that the Bills should be able to exploit tonight. The last 2 weeks, the Dolphins, from a tight end perspective, Tyler Warren in week 1 went 7 for 76 against them. against the Patriots, who aren't really known for having the greatest tight end room. Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry combined for 4 catches for 47 yards. So against the tight ends, like I said, 28th again in DVOA. They've allowed 11 receptions through 2 games to the tight ends. I expect Dalton Kincaid to be featured again tonight for the Bills, and really Dalton Kincaid to kind of continue the mantle of success that a guy like Dawson Knox has had against this team in the past. Dawson Knox has had some big games against this team in the past, and I would expect the tight ends to be pretty involved tonight for the Buffalo Bills. Jordan Brooks, their leading tackler through 2 games, like I said, but these guys have not graded out well from a coverage perspective. Him and Dodson, we're obviously very familiar with Dodson in the back end, as I mentioned, is banged up with some injuries. So it's really going to be about keeping Josh Allen clean. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league at avoiding sacks. I think this Bills offensive line is up for the task. And that brings me to James Cook, who's been on an absolute tear to start this season. He and himself, 224 rushing yards in 6 games against the Dolphins, 4.3 yards per carry for 3 touchdowns. He's averaged nearly 3 receptions per game against the Dolphins as well in his career, and added 2 receiving touchdowns in 6 games against them. James Cook, to me, is the catalyst again for this Bills offense tonight. I expect that he's going to have another big game. We remember the long touchdown run he had against the Dolphins in that game a year ago. And I would expect that James Cook will once again be a focal point for Joe Brady in this offense, and perhaps again spamming the same plays over and over again if it's continuing to work for the Bills. I think the strength of this Miami defense, if you want to say there is a strength, it are the edge players with Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. If Chop Robinson's kind of mixing and matching inside and out, those are the guys that you kind of ultimately have to account for if you're the Buffalo Bills on offense. But it's been a slow start for those guys to start the year. And so, between Chubb, Robinson, Jalen Phillips, okay, you want to try to take those guys out of the game as much as you can. It'll be interesting to see if the Bills can get Khalil Shakir going tonight at all over the middle of the field as well. Only had the 1 catch a week ago against the Jets in a game where we thought he would be more involved. Perhaps he's still battling something. He's not on the injury report, so it's going to be nice to have that. It's just one of those things where the Bills defense always seems to be the ones that are missing dudes, and the offense seems to kind of just truck along. And I think the offense is going to need to lead the way tonight for the Bills. The defense had an excellent bounce back effort against the Jets, but I expect the Bills offense to come out and really execute well. Home game. This is a game the Bills really need to kind of just bury the Dolphins early in the season. Offensively, the Bills shouldn't have any problems moving the ball against this Dolphins defense. They really shouldn't have any issues putting up points against this Dolphins defense, who I mentioned have given up 33 points in each of the first 2 games. And that puts them second worst in the NFL through 2 weeks, behind only the Chicago Bears, who pretty much gave up a 50 spot to the Detroit Lions a week ago. So you're talking about a defense that has struggled so far to start the year, and that you would expect the Buffalo Bills can take advantage of in this matchup. So ancillary pieces for the Buffalo Bills expecting to get involved. Maybe it's a bounce back week for Josh Palmer as well. I do think Dawson Knox is going to have a play or 2 in this one, but I do expect that this offense tonight will feature Kincaid and will feature James Cook. And I think we're going to see a bounce back game from Khalil Shakir tonight, where he's approaching, high single digits targets in this one. And then the X factor could be Keon Coleman, right? I mean, you've got, again, a secondary that struggled. Is he going to get matched up against Rasul Douglas some of the night? Is he going to get matched up against Jack Jones? In either case, it should be a nice matchup for Keon Coleman, if that's something to watch. But I agree with Spin here. I think Palmer's going to have a big game. And, we have to put this a bit into context. Like, what does a big game mean for Josh Palmer? I don't think it necessarily means like 7-8 catches. I think it could be like 4 catches for 90 yards, right? Something like that, and maybe a touchdown. Something where he pops. He's popped in each of the last 2 games at big moments. We know the big play at the end of the Ravens game to get the Bills ultimately in field goal range initially before the Keon Coleman play. And the play when Mitch Trubisky came in last week against the Jets where he kind of kept that drive going. And he's made big plays in back-to-back games, even though maybe that hasn't like translated to what you would hope from a volume or touchdown standpoint in the box score, but he's made some big plays the last 2 weeks, and I expect Dawson hands of stone knocks. That's good. And Tom Slay says whoever Douglas and Dotson are covering is who will go off, and I agree with that. And I think that's why Shakir and Kincaid are going to have a good night tonight, because you'd expect over the middle of the field that they can take advantage of those linebackers in coverage. Jordan Brooks has been a little better than Tyrell Dotson in pass coverage, but neither have been great. So we'll see kind of what happens with that. But again, I expect a big night for this Bills offense. It would be a mild disappointment, I would say, if they're not pushing 30, over 30, close to 30 or over 30 points against this Dolphins defense, who they've really kind of taken advantage of over the last couple years. Okay. On to the Bills defense against the Dolphins offense. So let's take a look at the Dolphins offense. Mike McDaniel, man, he's in a tough spot. The Dolphins are desperate, but they did bounce back a little bit on offense a week ago. Tua, although he did have the one interception, did throw for 2 touchdowns. They did get Tyreek involved. And no one's mad. It says 30 minutes. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think it needs to be 30 tonight for the Bills offense. But on defense, yeah, the Dolphins offense had a little bit of a bounce back against the Patriots a week ago. Put up 27 points. Granted, some of that was on a return, but Tua did look better. He was getting the ball out mostly to his first read. And as we know, that has been the game plan, right, against Tua, and why the Bills have kind of had, derivative success against Tyreek Hill as a result, is because they have tried to take away Tua's first read in the past, and they've done a good job doing it. Now, Jalen Waddle being active tonight for the Dolphins is going to help things. Devon Achane, if they can go back to week 1 and see what a guy like Derrick Henry was able to do to the Bills. Now, he's not Derrick Henry, but he can still hurt you on some of those outside sweep type runs. He can hurt you as a receiver. The Bills did a great job containing Breece Hall last week, and fortunately for the Bills, this is the first week that they're really not going to have to deal with a super athletic scrambling quarterback as part of the game plan. Tua can, move here or there, but he's probably not likely to make that his priority after the Bills kind of shut down Justin Fields a week ago and did what they could against Lamar in week 1. They now get a little bit of a reprieve against a quarterback like Tua, where yes, he may get the ball out quickly, but there shouldn't really be a ton of a threat for Tua to take off running. The big threat is really going to be Devon Achane as a receiver. Tyreek Hill, obviously the Bills have had success against him, as I said, but he's still someone you need to respect. And Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins really, are hoping maybe to get more out of their tight end room. Jonas Smoot left. Darren Waller's not going to be active tonight, so they really don't have much in the way of the tight end room. The X factor for them is likely a guy like Malik Washington, who has had some plays. He's actually second on the team in rush attempts for the Dolphins, behind Achane, who has essentially been a bell cow for them through 2 games and will likely feature. So let's go look at the Miami Dolphins DVOA. They're 26th in overall offensive DVOA, 25th in passing, 20th in rushing. So not great. They're 25th in overall offense from a raw statistics standpoint. So that aligns with the DVOA, the 4th worst rushing offense through 2 games from a raw statistics standpoint. So a little bit of a skew there against the DVOA. They are the 11th best third down conversion offense in the NFL. So there's something to be said there. The Bills did jump from being 4th worst after week 1 to the NFL's best third down defense through 2 weeks because of that 0 for 11 the Jets had on third downs a week ago. On offense, Achane has been the bell cow. Like I said, he has 18 carries for them through 2 games. That doesn't sound like a lot, but for Miami, that leads the way, and their next closest is Malik Washington, who's a receiver with 4 carries. Achan actually also leads their team with 11 receptions through 2 games, and Tyreek has 10 right behind him. So Achan is really the focal point of their offense so far. The Bills have been able to, like I said, slow down Tyreek and take away Tua's first read, but they will be without Ed Oliver and they will be without Matt Milano tonight. So the back end really has to hold up and be sound in this one. Big night for Cole Bishop ahead. Big night for Taylor Rapp. Obviously, Christian Benford, we expect him to be on his game. And Trey White is going to maybe have his hands full with a guy like Jalen Waddle in that speed. So the Bills really still need to be careful on the back end. That defense has been really good in the past about taking away the big plays from offenses and forcing them to drive down the field. Tua is completing 73% of his passes, but does have 3 interceptions through 2 games and has been sacked eight times already this year, which is the 3rd most in the NFL. The only 2 quarterbacks that have been sacked more than Tua are Cam Ward and JJ McCarthy. So yeah, you start to think about that and the Bills with Joey Bosa and what he did a week ago. Even without Ed Oliver, you would expect that they can bring some heat onto Tua with Joey Bosa, with AJ Epinesa, with Greg Rousseau, the rookies, TJ Sanders and Deion Walker making an impact, and Daquan Jones kind of being that steadying presence in the middle. Again, the grading is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt, but through 2 games, PFF's got Miami as their 28th ranked pass blocking unit and 29th ranked run blocking unit on the season. So this is an offensive line that left to right is Patrick Paul, left tackle, Jonah Savina at left guard, and someone's going to yell at me for saying that name wrong. Aaron Brewer at center, Keon Smith at right guard, and Larry Brown at right tackle. So it's not a great. Yes, no bones about it. Waddle is dealing with a shoulder injury. However, reports are that he is going to play tonight. As I mentioned, you might have joined late. Cameron Wolfe is reporting that Jalen Waddle will play tonight. How effective he will be, we will see. And so we'll see how the Bills defense can contain that. But for me, and others may disagree, my key to the Bills defense for tonight is to slow down Devon Achan's effectiveness, right? You start to look at sort of what he's done through 2 games. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. He's averaging 10.2 yards per reception. He's already got 2 receiving touchdowns on the season. So he's a guy that you certainly are going to need to contend with. And he was sort of starting out the season a little banged up as well and appears to be kind of coming back to full health, not on the injury report this week. So that Bills defense without Matt Milano, without Ed Oliver, they're going to still have to play a solid game tonight because this Miami offense does have weapons. This Miami offense should be better than what the Bills saw a week ago with the Jets as far as an offense is concerned, even though Tua can't move around as much. This team should be better on offense than what the Bills saw a week ago against the Jets. Taking away that first read on Tua is going to be critical, and hoping that guys like Joey Bosa and Greg Rousseau can get home when they take away that first read. Big night ahead for Cole Bishop, big night ahead for Taylor Rapp, I would say. And as Cecil says, pressure on Tua is key. He makes mistakes under pressure. 100% agree. And a lot of that is tied to when you take away his first read, he gets a little frantic in the pocket. And that's where you can really hopefully see a guy like Joey Bosa make a big impact again tonight, who's had such a great impact on this Bills defense so far. So that's where we are with the Bills defense, who, again, will be looking to kind of continue that trend of the success they've had against that Miami offense. And that means it's now time for our pregame superlatives. So as always, we usually have 2 of us doing this, but I'll give it my all here tonight on the superlatives. And there's a lot we can go, right? I mean, there are going to be some obvious choices here. There are going to be some not so obvious choices. I'm going to try to mix it up a bit tonight to see if maybe we can get something a little bit different. But as always, first we start with our Take Me Higher player of the game. All right, the Take Me Higher player of the game is someone, a star player on the Bills, not named Josh Allen, who is going to take the Bills higher tonight. And I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go. It's gonna be easy to say Joey Bosa. It'll be easy to say James Cook, but I'm gonna go a little outside the box tonight. But I think it's a good opportunity for this star player to kind of have a moment on national TV tonight. And I think that that's going to be Christian Benford. I think that Christian Benford is going to play a big role tonight in kind of slowing down Tyreek or Waddle or whoever the case may be. And I think he gets his first interception of the season tonight on Tua. I think Christian Benford tonight is going to have a big game. He doesn't really typically show up huge in the box score because they don't really throw his direction. But I do think that in some cases tonight, when Tua goes for that first read, it may be to Benford's guy, and he will be ready to answer the bell tonight. So maybe a first timer for me picking Christian Benford as the Take Me Higher player of the game. But like I said, I'm gonna try to mix things up tonight. And so that's who I'm going with. Honorable mention on offense. I like it. No bones about it. Kincaid. If I was going to pick a guy on offense, I think I would roll with James Cook again after I did a week ago. He made me look good for picking him after the 132 rushing yards against the Jets. So I would go with James Cook as an honorable mention. So that's what we'll do tonight. We'll do since Judge isn't here, I'll kind of do like a my pick and then an honorable mention to kind of sneak in that second option, if you will. So cheating, but not really cheating. So yeah, that's what we'll go with. So that leads us now to our wild card player of the game. So the wild card player of the game is, as always, a Bills player who's not a star player or maybe even a relatively low snap count type of player who's going to make an impact tonight. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting night, I'd say. I think last week I picked Josh Palmer as a wild card. It didn't really pan out. He's kind of not really necessarily a wild card. Should he be considered a wild card? He's getting paid all that money. I don't know. I think the wild card for tonight is going to be Dawson Knox. And I mentioned Kincaid as an option, but I think Knox is going to be involved as well. Again, it won't necessarily be in huge volume, but I could see Knox scoring a touchdown tonight in the red zone. I could see Knox having like a 1 catch, 8 yards and a touchdown, or 2 catches, 15 yards and a touchdown type of game. And as No Bones About It says here, Bishop is my wild card. My honorable mention, I'll continue with the secondary sort of as a pick. Benford as my Take Me Higher player. I think Cole Bishop as a wild card player, honorable mention on defense, is a very interesting one. And I like that pick because I do agree that he played his best game as a pro, in my opinion, last week against the Jets. There was an intensity there from that safety group, almost like a swagger around that group, as if to say, people have been talking bad about us. We have been looked at as the weak link for this team. And I understand that, right? And the safety position was under a lot of fire after that Ravens game. It was under a lot of fire throughout training camp and throughout the practices leading up to the season opener. And yeah, I think he played his best game as a pro. He's gonna have his hands full this week, more so than he did a week ago, because he's gonna have to deal with Achane in the open field. He's gonna have to deal with Waddle and Tyreek in the deep middle. And so Cole Bishop has a task tonight. He's going to have a task tonight. His hands are going to be full, but I think if he can continue kind of the momentum from a week ago, a little confidence, a little mental fortitude, a little playing a little bit quicker, letting the athleticism that we know he has take over a bit, then yes, I could see Cole Bishop being a wild card type of player on the defense. And that leads us to our Respect You player of the game. So our Respect You player of the game is a player from the opposing team who we need to watch out for, who we think can really make a positive impact for the opponent. And I've been kind of hinting at it all night. And to me, it's Devon Achane for the Miami Dolphins all day for me as a respect to player. I know it's easy to say Tyreek, maybe even Jalen Waddle, maybe Bradley Chubb you can mix into that. But to me, Achane is sort of how this team goes tonight, how this Miami team goes tonight will be, I think, largely dependent on how successful Achane is and how, if Mike McDaniel sticks with him, like he hasn't done in the past. There have been plenty of times in the past where he's been off to a hot start against this Bills team, and they've kind of just gone away from him and put the ball into his hands. And to me, that's a mistake. If you're the Miami Dolphins, I think you get Achane involved. He only has 18 carries through 2 weeks. I think he could get easily 15 carries tonight if the Dolphins are able to stay on a bit of a schedule on offense. I know the Bills really rebounded well on third down defense against the Jets, but they were not very good in week 1 against the Ravens. So I think the Dolphins will land somewhere in between. If the Bills can hold the Dolphins under 40% on third down, I think that would be a success for the Bills defense. But I do think Achane can be an X factor for them and an equalizer for them. So I will say Devon Achane as my respect to you player of the game. And that leads us to our hot take of the game. Hot take of the game tonight. I'm going to kind of continue on sort of the tight end trend, I guess. I had Dawson Knox as a wild card player. I think Dalton Kincaid could be a take me higher player tonight. I think 3 combined touchdowns from the tight ends tonight for the Buffalo Bills is my hot take. I don't know whether it's going to be all 3 from Kincaid, 1 from him, 2 from not, like whatever it is, but or maybe even Jackson Hawes gets one. Maybe one for each of the tight ends tonight. But I think Spin would agree that one would qualify. And so I'm going with my hot take as the Bills tight ends combined for 3 touchdowns tonight. I think this is an area where they can take advantage. Like I said, Tyler Warren had a day against this defense in week 1. Henry and Hooper did some damage against this team a week ago, albeit not for huge yardage numbers, but were involved. And I think the Dolphins can be tested. Dodson can be tested. Brooks can be tested in pass coverage. There will be opportunities for Knox and Kincaid to both have impacts in this game. And so, yeah, maybe even a hotter take than saying the Bills tight ends will combine for 3 touchdowns is to say that each one of them will get 1 touchdown each, but I'm not ready to go that far. And Spin says Judge hot take would be Allen scores either a passing or spicy hot there, right? So that's what I'm going with. I think it's pretty hot, and we're not, like I said, I'm not a big hot take artist guy, but I'm going to go with that. And that leads us to our last but not least superlative, which is our game prediction. So, game prediction for tonight. The Bills have had such good success against this Miami team. I want them to really start out hot on offense tonight. I think that would go a long way into easing some of the stress of this being an early season division game. Obviously, we know like a couple of these early season matchups against Miami, the one from a couple years ago down in Miami didn't go the way that the Bills wanted. But I do think the Bills just have too much on offense for this Miami defense to really contend with. I do think Miami is going to be able to decently move the ball tonight. I don't know that they're going to have 400 yards of offense, but I think they're going to do decently well moving the ball tonight. I think they're a good third down offense. They have typically put themselves in decent down and distance on third downs so far this season. But I do think that the Bills defense, even with Ed Oliver, without Milano, Bosa there, Dorian Williams is a very capable fill-in for Matt Milano. We still got Terrell Bernard, Gregory Rousseau. The rookies and on the interior can have a day as well. The challenge is slowing down Achane if they can. Bishop maybe and Rapp getting some confidence back, and Benford doing his thing. I think they'll slow down Miami enough to give the Bills offense plenty of possessions in this game, and the Bills will eventually pull away. The number right now The last number I saw is the Bills were 11.5-point favorites. And I think it's going to end up being right around that number. I think that's a really good number. So I'm going to say the Bills 34, the Dolphins 24, and the Bills win by 10 in this game. 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals for the Bills, 3 touchdowns, and a field goal for the Dolphins. So 34-24 is my prediction for tonight's game. I'm just going to do a really quick check to see if they released the inactive list yet. I'm just going to stall a bit here just to see if they released it. I don't think they have, but I'm going to just check really quick while we're here before we get out of here. I'm not seeing it, but let's just give it a minute or two. Let's see what we got in the comment section for predictions, I guess. We got EB saying 42-12 Bills. 12 is an interesting score. Is that 4 field goals, or is that maybe a touchdown and 2 missed extra points, or 2 missed 2-point convert, 2 touchdowns and 2 missed extra points? Big Swifty saying 52-20 Bills. Your boy, oh wow, your boy Lettuce. He might be drinking that Jack Daniels tonight, as he is in that picture. 75-33 Bills. Now, it was 2 short seasons ago, where the Denver Broncos did hang a 70 burger on this Miami Dolphins team. So don't say it can't be done, because it can be done. Renaissance Man 56-13 Bills. No bones about it. 45-25. I like that. That's a good kind of random score, but definitely within the realm of possibility. Charles says 34-20, fairly close to my 34-24 prediction. RJ comes in always with the level-headedness, 27-24 Bills, and we freak out the entire night because Miami starts out hot with 2 straight TD drives. Then we come back, probably force Tua to throw a pick, and we pull ahead in the fourth quarter. That wouldn't be good for anybody's blood pressure, but hey, I guess a win is a win, right? If it ends up being the case. So that would be very stressful. Just going to give it another minute here to see if we can get this Bills inactive list. Still looking on X for it. I'm sure it's going to come out as soon as I end the freaking broadcast, but we'll give it another minute or two just to chat about it if it comes through. Look, I think as far as just my general sort of overall thoughts on this one, like the Bills really can go. Okay, Moritz says 27-3. Other than Miami scored 73 against the Broncos. Oh yeah, you're right. That's my mistake. Dyslexia and just wishing that it was Miami. They got the 70 burger scored on them. So you're right. You're right about that, RJ. Jessica says 38-17 Bills. I think, yes. Yep, I was wrong. I got those two things mixed up. So sorry about that. 38-14 Bills from Claude. Yep. So sorry about that. Okay, Chuck Diesel says Bills 34, Dolphins 24, and that was my prediction. Close until the fourth quarter. So that, yeah, I mean, that's obviously the same prediction I had. So let's see. Do the Buffalo Bills release their inactive list yet? I just got it. So here we go. They just released it. So we're going to read it out here. All right. The Bills inactives for tonight will be Curtis Samuel, inactive. Jordan Hancock, inactive. Jamarcus Ingram, inactive. Matt Milano and Ed Oliver, as expected. Chase Lunt and Landon Jackson. So we get no Curtis Samuel for the third week in a row. No Jordan Hancock for this game, even though he's healthy. So a healthy scratch for him. No Jamarcus Ingram as well. Chase Lunt and Landon Jackson, the other two besides Oliver Milano, which means that Taron Johnson is good to go for tonight. And that means that Cam Lewis is good to go for tonight. So Curtis Samuel, not really earning that paycheck, huh? So healthy scratch again. Big Swifty comes in and says Samuel, including the group project, even though he didn't do anything. I will say this. I said it like a couple weeks ago, like this I mean, there's no other way to say it now. It is a bust signing. Curtis Samuel has been a bust signing. I'm not being, I don't think this is being overly critical. He's a bust of a signing. He hasn't contributed meaningfully. He did, yes, have the moment in the AFC Championship game and the moments against the Denver Broncos in the playoffs a year ago, but he's not on the field ever. He's getting inactivated in favor of Elijah Moore, obviously, and Tyrell Shavers being active for special teams. And so there's no other way to say it than to just say that it's been an absolute bust of a signing for Brandon Beane. And look, you had potential. You could kind of maybe see the vision for that, but it's just not worked. Charles G. Waddle active tonight. Yes, Waddle. I guess that's a statement. Yes, Waddle is active tonight. The inactives for the Miami Dolphins are Ife Melifonwu, who we knew, Storm Duck, who we knew, Darren Waller, who we knew, Taj Washington, Zeke Biggers, Juju Brents, and Quinn Ewers. He's the emergency third quarterback. So Jalen Waddle is up for tonight's game, as are the other questionables, as we expected. Chop Robinson active as well for Miami, so that's just coming in over the wire right now. So glad we got in those active inactives. But yeah, Curtis Samuel, man, what a bust of a signing. And look, I don't even necessarily, do I care at this point? I mean, I care because it wasn't a good signing, but I also like the contributions so far that we're seeing from Elijah Moore as a fifth wide receiver. I think that it was nice to see him get that touchdown a week ago. I think he's shifty. I think he runs crisp routes. I think he's fast. I think Josh Allen trusts him. And at the expense of Curtis Samuel, of Elijah Moore's role kind of maybe continues to grow a little bit more as the season goes on, I can kind of not be as upset about Curtis Samuel being inactive, but we're going to end up seeing Curtis Samuel essentially playing out again. If this trend continues, it's been 3 games. Is that a trend? I would say yes, it is a trend. He's likely now going to be the healthy scratch at wide receiver every week unless there are injuries. So it's a really expensive insurance policy if you're the Buffalo Bills to have Curtis Samuel on your inactive list every week as part of the 53-man roster. No bones about it. He's the worst signing ever. He shined in the playoffs last year. I don't get it. So that, we'll talk about that more probably as we kind of go throughout the season, because again, 3 weeks now, that's a trend for me. And so that's where we are with it. But we're closing in on the top of the hour here at 7 p.m. We got just a little over an hour 15 until game time. I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight, solo without Judge. We are not likely to have a show on Monday, but we'll confirm that, just be given there will be too many days in between sort of the time this game ends to, people will get their fill. Joe DeRosa is going to go on tomorrow night to do a post game. You'll have the Cover One post game show with Aaron and Greg immediately following tonight's game. So you have plenty of post game coverage from Cover One. Yes, Matt Ingram is inactive tonight. I'll go through the inactives just one more time for everyone. Curtis Samuel, Jordan Hancock, Jamarcus Ingram, Matt Milano, Chase Lund, Ed Oliver, and Landon Jackson are your inactives for the Buffalo Bills tonight. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed tonight's pregame show, and we'll get back to you all whenever our next show will be. Maybe we will do Monday, but it's looking like we probably won't. You'll have plenty of post-game Cover One coverage between Aaron and Greg and Joe tomorrow. So hope you all enjoy the game, and I hope you all enjoy your Friday tomorrow after a Bills victory. Let's hope. So until next time, go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comments section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!